Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
This week, the ask is very different. It is primal, instinctual, visceral.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
This week, you are one of many.
Out of many, we are one. And those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can.
A piece of the puzzle, a tip of the spear, a spark plug for a revving engine.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
You follow orders, you wear the colors, and you give it everything you've got.
That challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
For the big point, for the best team, for the President's Cup.
Good morning, welcome inside Studio AP, this Tuesday edition of Morning Drive. As you can tell, it's a different kind of week. It's a team competition. Gary Williams, Chris DeMarco, John Cook, gentlemen, good morning to both of you. You both have had emotional and real physical investment in the President's Cup. What does it mean to the players, Chris?
It means a lot. I mean, anytime for me, the start of the year would always be, goals would be obviously get to the Tour Championship, whatever team we were playing that year, whether it was President's Cup or Ryder Cup, just to be able to slap that U.S. flag on your body at some point and wear it proudly and just be a 12-man team. Because that's one thing, we're talking about a sport that has got so much individualism in them that if you can get on a team, you have that camaraderie in the locker room with the wives and the captains and the co-captains. You really feel that one thing. Me being Italian, passionate growing up in a team format, so to speak, to have that one time a year, it was so special. It was such a great week.
No doubt. Plus, you were rocking the highlights at that time.
Absolutely.
He was the human highlight reel,
He
right?
was indeed. He was. John, for you, an assistant captain, and just being a part of the team. Your dad's a football coach.
Right.
You love team.
Yes, in 94, 96, and 98, I was that guy waiting for that phone call. You know, I didn't quite make the team on points, but I was so happy to be Fred's assistant captain in 2011 at Royal Melbourne, one of my favorite places. And like you said, my father was a football coach. I felt like I was helping. I was a coach, and it just, you know, to have that feeling, to wear the flag, to wear the colors each and every day, to be in that team room, like Chris said, with the guys and being part of that crew. It was such a great unit and such a great experience.
Well, that is what is happening now. The President's Cup will commence and begin on Thursday in the shadows of the Statue of Liberty, a very dramatic sight, no question about it, right across from Lower Manhattan. You go back to 2015 when the United States dramatically won the Cup again. And it's interesting to note that obviously Bill Haas had that critical point playing for his dad. And here is the United States team loaded. 11 of these 12 players, the only player who wasn't in Atlanta for the Tour Championship was one of the captain's picks, and that is Phil Mickelson. He showed Steve Stricker just enough form to put him on there, and a lot of people believed that he was going to be there no matter what. For the international side, yeah, it's a tall order, and Hideki Matsuyama, it did not have a good FedEx Cup playoffs. Jason Day has not had a great year, and there are extenuating circumstances, obviously, with the turmoil and obviously dealing with his mother's illness. Adam Scott has not had a great year. This is a heady thing for them to try to pull off. And when you talk about competition is fueled, and the interest is fueled by it being competitive. And I ask this because overwhelmingly the United States has been dominant. How does the international side be highly competitive like they were in Korea?
Well, I mean, I think the advantage that we have as Americans is that we get to play, whether it's Ryder Cup or President's Cup, every year. We've been playing Ryder Cup for a long time. So we have that team atmosphere and that team fire in us, where the internationals, this is only going to be the 12th time that they've done this. So and it's been a totally different team. We've had pretty much a main nucleus for a while now, and you're not seeing that there's different countries, different barriers to talk about languages. There's a lot of things that they have to deal with, where, and 9-1-1 doesn't seem too competitive so far.
No, it's not. That's just the reality of it. There have been some competitive events, but it's always, John, fallen on the side of the United States. And the theory was for a long time, the reason why the U.S. maybe struggled in the Ryder Cup is that they had these team commitments on an annual basis. But with the turnover of the roster, don't you think the United States is in a position to not only do it again, but also with respect to what it means to the Ryder Cup? But this is about the President's Cup. That was excruciating to watch, certainly for Anaban Lahiri. The United States, why are they so good in this competition?
I think they're more relaxed. We play a lot of golf with the players from the international squad. They come and play the U.S. Tour a lot. We're comfortable with them. Everybody gets along. Each and every year you get to the big beginning of the year, you're trying to make a team. And so you're used to doing that. The internationals, like Chris said, only every other year. But I think that the internationals are starting to get that. I think it's up to the major players, the Jason Days, the Adam Scotts, to really buy into the fact that this is big
and lead
and lead and them be the leaders. And then like Shigeki Murayama in 1998 stepped up and he was 5-0.
Yeah.
So you have to have one of those other guys. One of the other players step up and be that guy as well. It's just as, rivalries are rivalries, but, we'd like to see the internationals they're creeping closer and closer. And I think that pod system, they're kind of in a de facto pod system with, some of the Asian players are together, the Aussies are together,
South Africans
are together.
Yep.
So they are in that position. So they're set up correctly. Now they just have to perform. You have to do it on the golf course.
There's a big reason why Phil Mickelson's on that team for the Americans too.
Yep.
Because for that leader in the locker room, for sure, and without a doubt. I mean, all those younger kids look up to him and love his tenacity and his fire.
Yeah, and likely a pod that'll include Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler. What else is happening now? The site itself, it's played host to the Northern Trust on a couple of occasions. Heath Slocum, that was one of the great all-time Hail Marys, no doubt about it, when he beat the likes of Tiger Woods and Padraig Harrington, who obviously at the time were two of the best players in the world. It's a very dramatic site, and for more on that, let's say good morning, send it over to Charlie Reimer and Matt Janella.
All right, Gary. Matt, you've been fortunate enough to have been out on site there at Liberty National quite a few times. I've had a few invites from Derek Sprague, the past president of the PGA of America. Just haven't been able to take him up on his offer. But this site, it's a very unlikely site for a golf course. How did it get here?
Certainly was back in 1998, Charlie. Paul and Dan Fireman purchased 1 mile of what was really, you could call it a dump site in New Jersey. It was what some consider a toxic wasteland. They spent years and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, over $250 million dollars, building this golf course. Opened on July 4th, 2006. Very private golf course, $250,000 to join. They have about 175 members now. Hosted what was the Barclays in 2009. Players balked, didn't necessarily like this golf course. They brought back Bob Cupp and Tom Kite, the original architects, to make some changes, to change 5 greens, about 13 fairways, made it a little more playable, a little more fair, and they hosted the Barclays again in 2013. In 2014, the tour liked it so much they entered a 25-year agreement with the tour. They'll probably have at least another 10 events there over the course of 25 years in the future, one of which being this year's President's Cup. It's, you can say whatever you want about the golf course. You can critique hole by hole or whatever, but at the end of the day, I think this is very special story in terms of an environmental story. The idea that this has hosted 2 tour events and now the President's Cup is a tribute to Paul and Dan Fireman for what they envisioned and what they executed.
For $250,000 to join, you ought to get a good view. By the way, I wonder if you can spread those payments over like 100 years.
I would need to.
Yeah, me too. But this view It really is unique.
Yeah.
Is there anything else like it in the world?
Well, the only thing that you could compare it to is Bayonne, which is Eric Bergstall's development right next door. But, you know, you look, if you like New York, if you're a fan of the greater Northeast and you step out onto Liberty National, yes, it's exactly the way you describe it, as unique and special. You're not far from Lady Liberty. You're looking at her through multiple points of the golf course, the southern tip of Manhattan and that skyline. If that doesn't move you, then, you know, go somewhere else.
Well, we're going to have much more on the golf course coming up a little bit later in the show, including Matt spending some time with one of the co-designers, Tom Kite, last week out at Pebble Beach. But for now, let's check back in with Gary.
All right, Charlie, what else is happening now? Well, the President's Cup is going to be played in 2019 at Royal Melbourne, one of the great golf courses in the world, and will be played in December. Hooray! These players won't be gassed. They'll have some time after the playoffs to decompress, come back fresh, and get to go to a place that I know John Cook loves dearly. Meanwhile, Rory McIlroy, whose season ended prior to the Tour Championship, will play in the British Masters in Newcastle, England this week. So his season is not going to conclude. He's going to push toward that race to Dubai, where he has obviously a lot of success. And then finally, Steve Williams has split with Adam Scott. Their relationship, as far as their working relationship, he hasn't been caddying for him full time, but he's going to be on Danielle Kang's bag this week, which is very interesting, as we send it over and say good morning to Bailey Mosier.
Interesting indeed. Yes, Gary, thank you. Good morning, everyone at home. It's a big show we have today for you on this Tuesday, and we want you involved. We put this question out on our social media channels. We want to know, now that the FedEx Cup playoffs have concluded, what was your favorite non-major moment of the 2016-17 wraparound season? So go ahead and send those our way at GC Morning Drive, and we're going to show your answers throughout the show, as well as unveil our answers later in the show as well. All right, it is T-sheet time now. What's coming up the rest of the way on Morning Drive? So tonight, 5 individuals, they are going to be inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. And our own Cara Robinson, she's emceeing the event. So she is already up in New York City preparing for that ceremony. And we're going to check in with her this morning. And she's going to be joined by 4 of those 5 inductees. And the phrase, be the right club today, that would certainly be in the Hall of Fame of memorable reactions to golf shots, if there was such a thing. So the man who uttered those words 17 years ago, where is he now? Our own Gary Williams caught up with him recently. We have that for you in just a little bit. And we are going inside the locker room with Charlie, Cookie, and DeMarco. They know what makes for the perfect foursomes and 4-ball partners in an event like the President's Cup. They're also going to reveal the one player in the history of the game that if they could partner with anyone in the game, who that would be and why. So all that is headed your way this morning on Morning Drive. We get you set for the Hall of Fame ceremony tonight and the 12th edition of the President's Cup, which gets underway on Thursday.
How many more times do we have to show that putt? Seriously.
Contractually about 12 more times this year.
12 more times.
This year, yeah. 8 more this week.